Today we're looking into Hunt Me Part 2, and the challenge name is Typo Squatters. Before I explain what is Typo Squatters, let me remind you that this room is part of SOC 2 pathway, or SOC level 2, and it is part of the threat hunting track. So by solving this challenge, we conclude the threat hunting section of the SOC level 2, and we're going to proceed further with completing the other modules later down the road. All right, let's get back to the challenge. Before we start anything, let's first explain what is Typo Squatters. So Typo Squatters is a tactic used by attackers to convince victims or other people that the domain name they are using is actually the original name they are claiming. For example, the domain name here is TryHackMe.com. If I want to do Typo Squatters on a domain, I would choose a domain name such as TryHackMe4, okay, and use it in attacking maybe users or other, victims or whatsoever. So Typo Squatters is using a domain name that's close in form or shape to the original domain name. So you want to make it look like the original name, but in fact it is not. It's used a lot in phishing attacks. You might receive an email coming from a party or someone claiming to be Microsoft, and they will use a domain name similar to Microsoft. We call that Typo Squatters. So let's go through the scenario first and see what is all this about. The first thing here, in the scenario, just working on a typical day as a software engineer, Perry received an encrypted 7-zip archive from his boss containing a snippet of source code that must be completed within the day. Realizing his current workstation does not have an application that can unpack the file, he spins up his browser and starts to search for software that can aid in accessing the file. So basically, it's as if you want to open a file on your computer and you don't have the associated program or the required program. What you would do, you would open Google and look for the program. That's what Perry did. He opened up Google and typed 7-zip. Why? Because it's the required program to unpack 7-zip archives. Continuing along with the scenario, without validating the resource, Perry immediately clicks the first search engine result and installs the application. As with most people, they would click on the first search engine result without any level of examination of what is the result, what is the title, what is the domain name. Before we examine what happened later, let's examine the screenshot. So that's what Perry saw when he looked up 7-zip in Google. He saw first this sponsored search result, and then we have another one that looks like the original domain name which hosts the program, 7zip.org. But before this one, we have this 7zip.org. Look at this. That's an example of Typo Squatter here. The original domain name is 7-zip.org. Now the other one that uses Typo Squatters is 7 without dash. That's the first difference, and zip with double P. Now that's an example of Typo Squatters, but unfortunately Perry did not examine the domain name before downloading the tool. So this was an example of a malicious website hosting a malicious file or malicious software to let people download it and infect their machines. What happened next? What happens next is last September 26, 2023, one of the security analysts observed something unusual on the workstation owned by Perry. So it looks like Perry got compromised, and maybe after a period of time, the security analyst discovered something unusual. So here the assumption is that Perry has already been compromised, and we don't know about it. But luckily, due to our SOC, we were able to discover something unusual on the workstation owned by Perry, based on the generated endpoint and network logs. That's what the SOC does. They examine network and endpoint logs from time to time. In a collective manner, but they would do that every day for all the real-time logs. Given this, your SOC lead has assigned you to conduct an in-depth investigation on this workstation and assess the impact of the potential compromise. So the assumption here is, as I said earlier, that the machine of Pretty has been compromised, and we want to conduct an analysis. So what is the nature of the analysis here? We have two types of analysis. First, we can conduct an instant response, okay, isolate the machine, investigate the root cause, and come up with lessons learned. But the other type of investigation we can conduct is not based on the machine. So here we will not examine Perry's machine, because if we go and examine Perry's machine, this will be called incident response or live forensic. What we're going to do, we're going to rely on our evidence. The evidence here is the endpoint logs in addition to the network logs. That's what we have. If you have logs, what you're going to do is use a specialist tool that will analyze the logs. You might analyze the logs manually, but it's better to use a centralized tool such as the Elastic Stack. So the Elastic Stack, we know that we can import or specify a source for the logs, and while specifying the source of the logs, the SOC analyst specified the endpoint and network logs, provided the paths to these logs to Elastic Stack or the Elasticsearch. We go to Discover and we start searching the logs. And don't forget that you have to specify the index. Now, this is for those who want to understand how the process of importing the logs works. All right, so we specified the indice that was used to store these logs, and then the time period. So for us, for this scenario, we're going to specify the last 15 years to cover as much data as possible, and we're going to update. So we have around 32,616 hits. All of these are log entries representing endpoint and network logs. We're going to start the analysis by going through the questions. The first clue is that the compromised machine or the owner of the compromised machine has downloaded a zipped archive, specifically 7Z. So probably we're going to get asked what is the name of the file or the URL. Let's see here. What is the URL of the malicious software that was downloaded by the victim user? We're looking to find the first root cause here. The first root cause is the URL from which or by which the malicious file was downloaded. Since we're looking for a pattern of URL here, we're going to need to investigate the browsing or the web activity of this machine. Now, that's not possible because we don't have the exact web server logs or maybe web traffic logs. We only have the endpoint logs, which represents the Windows event logs. To do that, we're going to have to find the process that's responsible for maybe browsing or generating web traffic, right? Let's look from the available fields here to see if there is anything we can use to specify a process name. We can have, as you can see, we have a process name. So we use process name in the search bar. And we can specify Firefox, say Firefox. Let's use, Firefox or Chrome or what's the process name for the Edge browser? Let's see here, maybe from my task manager here. If I spin up Edge here on my machine and I take a look at the process name, you see here that it is, can go to right click and click to go to more. It's not available. Okay, go to details and the process name is MS Edge. Let's do that here. Okay, we have around 1,390 logs. Okay, we're still gonna need to narrow this down a little bit more because it's not feasible to go through all of this. So we're looking for, as you can see, an event that shows that a file has been downloaded, meaning a file has been created. So we're gonna have to get the aid of the Win Event IDs. So before doing that, let's first take a look at the browsers here. So we're gonna click X on this and use from the available filters. We're gonna use process name and process command line, the parent command line. We're also gonna need the process parent. See if there is executable. Process parent name. Okay, we can put that here. And that's it for now. Okay. So if we highlight the process name here and click on it, we can see that Chrome is the only process that represents that a browser has been used here. So we're going to cancel the other names and focus on only Google Chrome. We have now around 465 hits. Okay, we still need more. I'm going to use and win log event ID 11. 11 is for file creation events. So we have 2 hits here. That's pretty much awesome. We're going to have to drill down on this, sort this from in ascending order, oldest to newest, drill this down, take a look at the activity. So there is the message field. Let's add this to the list of columns so we can examine it without the need to drill down on the event. So that's the message, and it shows that a file indeed has been downloaded. So here it shows the file name. It doesn't show the file name. It shows that the file has been downloaded. Let's take a look at the other one. Hopefully we get a clue of what's the file that has been downloaded. Okay, see here, this is the file that has been downloaded, and it is located under C users Perry Parsons downloads, and it's an MSI file, an installer file. But still, we don't see the full URL. Usually, the message field in Windows event logs contains more information about the nature of the event and other details. So here, probably this is a snippet of the full message. Still, we don't see the URL. So to find the full URL, what you're gonna have to do, guys, you're gonna have to add and filter for HTTP. Nothing. This. Still nothing. Now, if we cancel the event ID here and only filter for HTTP, we get 1 hit. If we examine this, we're gonna see that this is the same log item we saw earlier, but this time the message section shows more details. As you can see, it's the same file that we saw earlier, but in the message section more information is revealed to include the filter we used here, and this happens to be the URL that was used to download the file. That's where it came from. What is the IP address of the domain hosting the malware? So here we need to find the IP address of the domain name. Now to do that, we're gonna have to search for DNS here. If there is any field for DNS, nope. Okay. Let's grab the URL or the domain name and use it in the search bar. So 2 wildcards before and after to account for any string that might come before the domain name or after the domain name. If we examine this, we're going to see 311 hits. Okay. Alright. To find the IP address, we're going to have again to look for a relevant field that would reveal the IP address. Search for DNS, and now you have data. Let's click on DNS resolved underscore IP. And based on the information found here, guys, as you can see, if you go to the DNS IP highlight, click on the field, 100% of the times or 100% of the logs found here where the domain name or the target domain name was mentioned contains this IP address. So this is the IP address that resolves from this domain name. What is the PID of the process that executed the malicious software? So what happens here, after the file was downloaded, it was executed. But what is the process that executed the file? Specifically, it is the installer file. We're going to have to find the process that executed the installer file. Let's go through the chronological list of events. Here you can see the file was downloaded, and then partial was spawned. And after partial, okay, after partial, we can see that partial was used to retrieve a partial script named 7ZPS1. Okay, and then we see a service was created. But what we're interested in is we're interested in the name of the process along with its PID that executed the installer file. Remember that the file that was downloaded is this. It's an installer file, and we're looking for the piece of tool that was used to execute this file. So let's take a look here at this event. So this event highlights partial, okay, as a process, but in the process parent command line and the process parent name, we see a different file here, different process. Let's drill down on this and see if we can find something. Okay, in the message section, we see that partial was spawned, and the parent image that executed partial is this MSI54. It is temporary file. It is still not the file that we think executed the installer file here. So to find it, we're gonna have to search with this file. Again, make sure to have an ascending order of the events. So here it shows the browser. We are interested in the browser because it's the only process used for downloading the tool. Oh, look at this. We have this one, MSI execute. It's self-explanatory that this tool is used to execute Windows installers, and it's very well known. So now we can confirm the theory that this was the process that executed the malicious payload. Now we're responsible of finding the IP address, the process ID of Windows installer. So we can scroll down to the relevant field, finding PID or process.pid. This is the parent process, and the process PID is 2532. Okay, following along with the questions, following the execution chain of the malicious payload, another remote file was downloaded and executed. What's the full command line value of this suspicious activity? So it happened an installer file was downloaded and executed using an installer executable from Windows. After installing the tool here, what happened? It's telling you that there was another file downloaded. Okay, another remote file was downloaded and executed. What's the full command line value? Remember that when a file is downloaded using the command line, it has been downloaded using partial. So we're gonna go back to the search bar and again process name Chrome and put HTTP. This is one hit. So this means that Chrome was used only once to download a remote file, which is the installer file. All right, let's now try with partial. We have around 184 hits. And we're gonna add the process name, the command line, the parent command line, the parent name, and the message itself. Sort in ascending order to get the recency sorted. All right, let's take a look here. So here partial was used to download a file. It is actually a partial script. And the parent process name is the Windows installer. This confirms the theory that upon executing the installer file and installing it, what happened? It was used to spawn partial and download another partial script. That's the full command here. The next question, the newly downloaded script, which is this, also installed the legitimate version of the app. What is the full file path of the legitimate installer? So again, the script here was used to download or to install another file. We're gonna have to find the full path of this file. To answer the question, we're gonna have to first use the filter and specify the name of the script. It's gonna be pretty much helpful if we do that. You're able to see the name of the script in all the columns. We're looking for instances where the script shows as a parent, maybe. Look at this. In the parent section or in the parent command line, partial was used to download the script, and after that we can see a path to a temporary file or stored under the temp directory, and that's the file name. Let's see the nature of this column. It shows a process command line. Okay, so what happened here? Partial was used to download the partial script, and the partial script, when executed, it stored or spawned a process stored under this location, and that's the full path to the file. What is the name of the service that was installed? We're gonna have to continue further with this, or we can use let's go down here to see if there is any indication of a service. Yeah, we see. So here with the same partial script, it was used to create a service. Look at the command. It's used the tool used for managing the services, SC, and use the command create to specify the creation of a service. The name of the service is 7z service. The binary path of the service, or the executable used along with the service, is the path to the original 7zip executable. The name of the service is 7z service. Next, the attacker was able to establish a C2 connection after starting the implanted service. What is the username of the account that executed the service? So here we are looking at creating the service. Let's look at an event where it shows the execution of the service. So here, as you can see, the command here is sc start 7z service. Let's take a look at the username, or we can just use from the fields here and add the username field to the list of columns. We can see that the user that started the service is system. Okay. After dumping LSAS data, the attacker attempted to parse the data to harvest the credentials. What's the name of the tool used by the attacker in this activity? So now the attacker, after getting access to the system, the attacker is trying to perform what is called as post-exploitation and persistence. He's trying to gather as much information as possible about the users in order to use the information to log in later. So now he is targeting the LSAS process used for storing the credentials. When we dump the credential of the LSAS, we actually create a file named lsas dump. As you can see, there is an attack called LSAS credential dumping attacks. And as per Microsoft, you can see here that LSAS credential dumping was first observed in the tactics, techniques, and procedures of several sophisticated threat activity groups. This is the history about the attack. And these are some of the tools used to create the dump. As you can see, the attacker can use living off the land binary tools. We explained these previously. Attacker can use Mimikatz. He can use process dump, task manager. All right, let's go back and let's search with LSAS dump. Let's cancel the U. And there is one hit. Let's take a look at the details of this. In the message section here, we can see that partial was used to invoke a script named power extract. The description says that power extract parses and extracts information, usually empty hashes, from memory dumps of the LSAS process. So the attacker dumped the LSAS, okay, or the contents of the LSAS process, and next the attacker used power extract, okay, to extract as much information as possible from this. Let's take a look at power extract here. So this is the Git repo. So when you invoke power extract, you specify the path to the dump. And after doing so, as you can see, that's how the tool works. You will be getting the credential of all of the users on the system. Credentials as in empty hashes. That's what I meant by saying credentials. If we wait, you can see these are the credentials. So power extract was used to extract the contents of the LSAS. Now here, the question is saying, what is the name of the tool used by the attacker in this activity? It's very clear that it is power extract or invoke power extract. What is the credential pair that the attacker leveraged after the credential dumping activity? So now we know that the attacker got all of these hashes, right? Now the attacker wanted to use them, okay, to authenticate maybe to other machines or to authenticate as the accounts to perform actions as these accounts. So that's what is meant by leveraging the credentials. Okay, so we're looking at the credentials in the form of username and hash. So most of the time, when the attacker gets access to credentials and dumps username and hashes, they're going to use them in bare commands, okay, to execute other stuff. So here we're looking at what kind of tools the attacker might use to leverage these credentials. The answer most of the time is Mimikatz. Mimikatz has a module named SecureLSA, PTH. If you click on this, you can see that this is used to perform pass the hash, pass the key, or overpass the hash. Upon successful authentication, a program is run, and these are the parameters. So why would the attacker do this? After the attacker used power extract to extract the credentials from the LSAS dump, the attacker would want to use these credentials to execute system commands, right? The attacker wants to leverage the all the permissions and the privileges associated with the accounts that he has dumped. So in order to do that, he's going to use Mimikatz with this module, technically to perform pass the hash attack. So here what happened is pass the hash the attack. How to search for these pair of credentials? We're going to go back to ALK here and use secure LSA to look for all the events, all the logs that have this module. Okay, again, the chronological list of the events should be from oldest to newest. We start with this. As you can see, Mimikatz is used to invoke this module, and as you can see here, the username was specified is James. That's the domain name, and that's the NTLM hash. Okay, that's the first user. If you examine the other events, you're going to see another user here. The other user is Damian Hall, which means that the attacker was able to dump credentials for two users. The first one is James and the other one is Damian. But which one you're gonna answer with here? It's the first one, James. How do I know? I just tried. But in practical scenario, you don't need to. The thing is to find out all the users who or which have been compromised. It's not important which was the first one, which was the last one. Okay, these are the users that have been compromised, and for this question it's the first one, James. After gaining access to the new account, the attacker attempted to reset the credentials of another user. What is the new password set to this target account? Knowing that the credential was reset, it was reset either with PowerShell or with another tool. In Windows operating systems, when you want to change the user password, you would use a tool called net. So you can search with net here. It's a very well-known tool to administer user operations on Windows. Let's see what happens. Okay, so here, as you can see, net local group administrators. Okay, to list the administrators in the group, and then we have this command. Net users, Anna Jones, and we have this password domain. This indicates that the password of Anna Jones has been changed. And more than this, if you scroll down, we can let's see if there are other users whose passwords have been changed, and we have nothing else. We only have 20 hits. That's the only user whose password has been changed, judging by the logs here. So this is the password. What is the name of the workstation where the new account was used? So that's the new account here, Anna Jones. Okay, and probably after the attacker got a hold of Anna, he used her credentials and logged into her machine. We need to find out where he used these credentials. So here we're probably looking at log on events. So win or event code 4672 for log on events, and we can help us a little bit and say and using and user name Anna. $55 hits. What is the name of the machine? To find the name of the machine, we're gonna have to use from the available fields and use hostname. And now we have a new column added showing the hostname. Sorting from oldest to newest, we can see the hostname is the name of the machine with and ending with 03. Scrolling all the way down, we can see another machine now with the domain name and 02, the code 02. Looks like the attacker used Anna Jones in two machines. The first machine, we knew it is for the machine where the attacker got the first access, and then he switched to the other machine, which is the machine related to Anna Jones. After gaining access to the new workstation, which is this, a new set of credentials was discovered. What is the username, including its domain and password of this new account? So here we discovered a new set of credentials, but how they were created, were these credentials the result of a reset operation, or maybe they were created as part of a credential creation process? We don't know yet, but what we know is that the credentials was discovered. The set of credentials was discovered. How they were discovered, we still don't know. We're gonna assume that the credentials were created, okay? Because the only way you would discover a bare set of credentials in a list of logs is either through the commands used to reset the credentials, as we saw here, using the net command, or inside configuration files, or through a credential set. So this is called set of credentials. The set of credentials that might include username, domain, and password is created regularly or usually using PowerShell, using what's called as credential object. So assuming that the set of credentials was created using a credential object in PowerShell. Why? Because there is username, there is domain, and there is password. These parameters are specified when you create a credential object in PowerShell. Now, how to find clues of credential objects? We're going to use the word or the keyword ps credential. Okay, let's try without the S. (1,296). That's a lot of logs. Since we knew that all of this was performed from the user Anna Jones, we can add this to the filter as well. Use ant user name Anna Jones. Okay, so look at the first one. The very first one shows PowerShell as the process name used to create what is called as a set of credentials. Let's take a look here. So taking a look at the set of credentials, that's a lot of data, man. A lot of data. Let's see here. Okay, that's the username, and that's the password. And here a secure password was created. Now the thing is, why would the attacker do that? Because the attacker wanted to use the username and the password of the new account in other commands without the need to specify them every time. So he would create a secure password. And as you can see, it was then these information, the username and password, were used to authenticate and download another PowerShell script named PowerReview. But for now, this is the pair of credentials. Aside from Mimikatz, what's the name of the PowerShell script used to dump the hash of the domain admin? Remember, guys, that previously when we discovered this account, there was another account called Damien Hall. Damien Hall is the other account, and since we have only two accounts, it is 95% the admin account referred to here. So here, aside from Mimikatz, what's the name of the PowerShell script used to dump the hash of the domain admin? We're gonna keep username as Anna Jones because it's the username through which all of these operations were conducted. And we're gonna use a filter to look at all the PowerShell scripts. PS1. Oh, that's a lot. 3,579 events. That's a lot of logs to go through. What if we specify and Damien as the user We get this to 151. That's good. You can see here that a lot of PowerShell scripts were used for the user Damien Hall. One of them is PowerView. We know that PowerView is not a script used to dump the hash of a user. It's used to perform enumeration and privilege escalation. So we're going to take a look at other scripts here. We can see this one, Sharpcats. Let's take a look at Sharpcats here. Sharpcats. And using the description, porting of Mimikatz. So it's part of Mimikatz used to dump passwords. So that's the tool used. It's very clear. It is called as invoke Sharpcats. Next, what's the AES 256 hash of the domain admin based on the credential dumping output? So this script was launched, okay, to dump the credentials of Damien. Let's now filter the events to include only the name of the script. So you can go back here and paste this. And we should get not a lot of logs. We have 215. Okay, we're gonna start with the first one. What is the AES hash? So here, if you go back to this script, understand how it works, probably it creates a dump of the information, including the hash, the NT hash, and maybe other forms such as the AES as mentioned in the question. So we're gonna go back to the folder and put and use AES. We get this down to 2 hits. Now the first one is pipeline execution details. We're not interested in this. The other one is command invocation out. That indicates exactly the output of executing Sharpcats. Take a look here. Scrolling down at the message, you can see the SAM account, Damien Hall as the username. We see also the NTLM hash, okay, and we see the AES 256. After gaining domain admin access, the attacker popped ransomware on workstations. How many files were encrypted on all workstations? So now the attacker got access to Damien Hall. So now we're going to use Damien Hall as the username in the folder. User name Damien Hall. Okay, and we're looking for an indication or indications of ransomware on workstations. So usually ransomware comes in an executable format. So we can use and process name exe. Look of all of the processes or executable processes under Damien Hall. And we see a lot of them. Let's take a quick look at these executables. We know it's ransomware. So first we're gonna try to find an executable that stands out among the list of the executables here. Continuing down. Okay, let's rule this out. If we rule this and not service host. We get this down to 454. We know this one. It's responsible for PowerShell remoting. This executable cannot be ransomware. Can also exclude this and not grab the name of this. We get this down to 93 now. We have who am I, and we have conhost. We can also exclude this. We're trying to find something that stands out. These are regular Windows executables. They could be used as ransomware, but it is not the thing. It is not probable. So we're gonna exclude them for now, and we are down to 9 hits. We have who am I, host name, that's a possible suspect, and we have bomb. That one, or this executable, raises a lot of suspicion. I'm gonna examine this. So the first occurrence of this is here, bomb, and scrolling down, taking a look at the parameters. An operation was attempted on a privileged object. That was the executable name. And see here the process information, and it's trying to define or modify device attributes. How do we know that this is the ransomware? With maybe 90% confidence rate, this is the ransomware, because if you compare it to other executables, they don't look like they don't look like a ransomware, right? So this one, judging by its name, gives us above 90% confidence rate that this is the ransomware. So it's bomb. Now the thing is, we want to find out how many files were encrypted. That might look a little bit tricky here, but if we resort to event logs or event codes, sorry, we're going to be able to find out how many files. How? Now the thing is, these files were encrypted, meaning they were created and encrypted. So we're going to look for the name of the executable as the process name. So here the process name should be bomb. And let's leave this for now. We have 6 hits here on bomb. Okay, we're gonna cancel the user from here because we want to find out all the files that were encrypted on all workstations, not only on Damien whole workstation. That's why I canceled it from the filter. So now process name bomb, we're gonna update and see how many occurrences. We have 55 hits. Now this could be 55 encrypted file, but this is not accurate because other event logs may represent operations other than the file creation events. So we're going to need to use a filter here, and event code, it's going to be 11 for file creation. Oh, nothing, because there is a typo here. .46 hits. So look at this. File created is seen among all the events. Okay, so this means that all of these were files created by this process. Let's take a look at a sample of these events. Okay, so that's the image, the ransomware, and we see here that the target file name that was created is stored under downloads, and it is the installer file but given another extension, 373z. Probably this is the extension of the encrypted file. Let's take a look at other events to understand the dimensions of this attack. And again, look at this. So these are files stored under the downloads. Looks like the ransomware targets the downloads directory in the file system, and it creates encrypted files with the extension 373z. So how many files were created or encrypted? We have 46 files. So that was it, guys.